I won't chitter chatter. Let's get down to it, and I'm going to put the camera on the cutting board in my shrine room, because after we're done, I think there's going to be time to move to sort of general shrine stuff. I didn't promote this particular day very much because I've been very busy, and yeah, here we go. So Tarchon Rinpoche showed me there's sort of a standard Lama Tarchon Rinpoche way, and then there's, when I actually did one for a big puja, he had me make it much larger and more comfortable than what we're going to see. So, same old, same old. All, this is probably, it's not very big, probably is even too big, but that's what I'm making right now. And I didn't bring my ruler, but I think you can see from my fingers, it's not, it's probably 2 inches, and that might even be too much. Why don't we just start with a Kartor that kind of makes logical sense, because the basic pectorals. Launch and Nyingtik style looks are very thin and kind of finger-like. And again, they're in bone style, and we're in the flesh style. A little bit different. But anyway, so again, I'm kind of using, if I'm doing it properly and not using cutting board as a surface, kind of doing like that. Now I'm cutting board. Oh my, that's too much dough. So some traditions, they start with a big, huge Gektor on the first day of and then they get smaller and smaller as you go, and others it's always the same. And generally, I'm not very fussy about Kartors and Gektors. They're just morsels. The Kartor is the offering for the, hey, Ricardo. Nice. Kartor is the offering for the Lokapalas, hey. We're in Kartor Gektor. And I do a lot of this action like you've seen me do before. And so there's a kind of old-fashioned or the Mexican Coke, yummy Coke bottle, the old Coke bottle from the 60s, or the current Mexican Coke bottle. I think they still make it the same way. Out in California, we have the delicious, no corn syrup, sugar-only Mexican Coke in the old-fashioned bottle sometimes. So that gives you the idea that there's a subtle, it's a little more subtle than the actual Coke bottle, but that gives you the idea of, if you remember, some of you are not to remember. But so I'm kind of moving my fingers like this to get a little indentation below the top. It's a round top on this, and then a slight indentation here at the near the end, and then a slight indentation here near the top. Not like the broad shoulders of a Dudjom, but just a subtle shape. And again, one time they had me do it, I think it was for Zansa Cancer Chase Wongs, and I have pictures of it if you're curious. Big, huge thing, but it was also much more conical with the little sides going down much more angularly. And you know, lamas, I said, oh, is this how we make this? We're going to make it now? He said, that's the way I've always made it. There's no question. Nobody has done that stuff for him but me. And now when I make it, people try to correct me. So I'm going to do it the old, more authentic way. So literally you could make this in 5 minutes if you just weren't as fussy as I am. But so that's kind of the core shape for the Kartor. I have it a little different. There's no models of these because they're so expendable. So this is I think you guys know because you're old timers, but you can make it taller, but it doesn't matter. When you're doing a practice in a new place, or you're doing the first day of a retreat, then you offer a Kartor to the benevolent or neutral gods who are in control of the local area. And I'm doing a little foot thing here. When you meet Magnus someday, you'll say, "Hey, are you Magnus who taught Yudron how to put a little foot there so that every tormas are more easy?" But actually, it's not a circle. It's the typical tepki style on the bottom. So there you go. Don't have it hanging up in the air. Like I said before, tepkis should be resting on the bottom, their bottoms on the ground, or the one below them. I think that's always true anyway. It's bad if they're hanging up. People want to put them up here too high. Then a little ball. So you've already made this, right? You made this when you made your Dudjom Tersar a long time ago. The Teradok and Shidok. Bum. So that's a little Kartor. Good enough. Nobody would reject that. Okay. Are there any questions about that? It's a little flared out the bottom. Be kind to your and put a little dip there so that it doesn't fall over. And you know, the Gektors and the Kartors, well, the Kartors, it's very likely fall over because sometimes people make them extra tall, you know, especially tall, and they don't have a big wide base, so when they're being carried around rapidly, they can easily fall over. The other thing to keep on the plate is you don't color this wine in the system, although we were making, Tarchin for a while got into using tempera paints on them, whatever your wine says, but generally they're just oatmeal or whatever you're using. And the other thing keeps them on the plate is since you're not painting this, you're going to be using ghee on it. And so ghee it on its plate, and then the little bit of ghee that's dripped down around the edge here. You don't want it too messy on the plate or anything, but that'll also anchor it to its torma plate. Any questions? All right. I'm going to save that because I have a new land I bought out in the Cedar foothills, and I haven't been there very much. And been there once and offered a Kartor, but I think I could offer quite a few. Nobody's worked on that. Nobody's been on that land before. I'm putting a driveway in, all that kind of stuff. I have a nice talk with whoever's around. Sorry about the digging. I really want to practice here. I'm just going to do it for a while, so we can borrow this place. You know, when they're doing a retreat somewhere, it's not your usual place. You know, going to thank you for lending us land for this period of time. We're going to, you know, we don't literally say we're going to be here for 6-7 days, but whatever. We're still doing this. The text will say we're just doing this text practice for a while. So it's up to your lama. Sometimes the Gektor is a little smaller than the Kartor, sometimes they're the same size. And again, it depends on if you're doing a Drupchen, they may make it the Gektor really huge on the first day. Kartor is always the same, and that's just proportional to the size of your event, the size of the room. Big, giant Pema Osling room with 200 people in it. Then you have to make it a little bigger to be seen, I guess. Okay, so I'm making a similar, smaller shape basically, and and then I'm going to. You can do this you just make the Kartor shape, put a little foot on it, put a proportionally sized tepkyu there, put a little ball on the top. And that starts it. Then there's a shaggy dog tail about a dragon, probably what they call dragons in English, whoever was selling it. Sorry. It was probably a naga originally. That grew up to be tamed a beast. I think it might have been, what is the name of the female? Sadly, it kind of makes it, if you print matriarchal stuff. The female, there's a female demon that overlaid Tibet. And she was suppressed by Rinpoche at several points around her body. And these temples there, that some of which still existed through the Cultural Revolution. And who knows, there might be one left. I think it might have been her. Anyway, she said, he said, you got to stop killing sentient beings. She says, well, how am I going to feed my kids? And he gave her there's a little piece of dough I'm going to show you that goes onto the back that is all about, that's a little food for her kids. I'm sure there's many versions of that story, and perhaps some of you remember it better than I can. So, but there's a dragon-like or a naga-like feature wrapped around this. And if you're done with your Kartor, I'm making a long thin shape by rolling on this is how I do it anyway. And pretty diameter, 1/3 of an inch maybe. Doesn't need to be that long, but if you have big hands, it's helpful. So everybody looking? Everybody look. And then press on that end with your thumb. Peel off the extra. Kind of bring this around, squish it in there too on the other side. And it's kind of dependent on your fist, right? It's fist size. And then it's hard for me to do this in the reverse, so I'm going to have you look at the back. I'll show you the front then. Bring it around. And this is a little different than the Longchen, which has a big tail going up, a pointy tail. It's just kind of like that. And sometimes it's not so, this side is just kind of not as broad as this side. And then they put the little gift for the dragon mama's babies back here somewhere. So they'll if you're facing the torma, kind of where I've seen it put, I'm sure there's variation back in the left. So you make a little ball, push it on there, and baby's taken care of in perpetuity because you put out Gektors all the time. Now, Gektors are in a retreat or offered every day. It'll depend on if you're doing personal retreat. It'll depend on your lama, how elaborate they want you to be. Sometimes they'll just say visualize it, or they'll say make it on the first day of torma, and subsequently you can use, for example, circum of tea plus some rice on a plate with some water on it. That was on a Tarchin's way sometimes. And then other times you can use balling. I showed you before, the little tepkyu, 3 or 4 finger squeeze, and then you have a torma. And that's your whatever torma. This is a raffle shape, so If you want to be super specific, you can dry these and use them fresh, and your lamas will have preferences about that. Oh, my internet connection is unstable. I may go fix that in a little bit. I'm going to go turn off my other computer just to make sure it's not interfering. But a little torma. And if you want to be super specific, this is actually my innovation from my interactions with a really geeky chicken. Super nerd. I love super nerds. So is, you know, you make a round white shape for the, so all these tebkyu, these dowling are painted red, and a round white shape you could use for your naga. If you really want to be literal and go around your, put a little plate with the number of tormas you'd have in red for all the other tormas when you're doing them, and then one piece full, because this shape does represent a weapon, as I understand it, as I've been told, oral tradition. And in theory, that we can come with tormas at some time, but in theory, I think you would use the, so you have 9 tormas. I'll show you sort of 4 examples of them, and then one of them is a naga torma. So you, Namatarchi would have us keep mendrup or dutsi dough for that one. You make dough in general. In general, he was yogi style, very simple. So you guys got any questions about the gektor? The gektor is, I think you know, is red, and it's sometimes called martor, but martor is a general term for red torma. And this is a kartor. Kar means white torma, and that's how you begin a puja.
Can we see the back?
Yeah.
Back of the gektor there.
Sure. Let's see here.
So the baby food, was that, I thought it was the ball. It looks a little smushed there.
Yeah, you squish it down on the top there. Good eye.
Okay.
And nobody's very fussy about the back of gektors. It's just a general ziggity-zaggity shape. This is the most unimportant, you know. These ones you throw, you know, when the chippen takes them out, they throw them, they throw them down, the wrathful mudra, and partially the kartor is thrown up more respectfully, and so there you go. 548. So
I have a question.
Yeah. Yes, Caroline.
Is one of these you put like a candle or some incense in it or something like that?
Yeah, good question. For empowerments, there is a gektor. Sometimes there's multiple gektors or multiple kartors. It really depends on the text. When a lama is giving the empowerment, you put a tinglo. You can put a tinglo in the front, which is like a Tibetan tea light. So a tinglo, and you'll make these for, if you're getting into Nakpa-like activities, a lot of activity practices will have these little tinglo in them. And the tinglo is a, you take a ball and then you make a little stand, actually, and then you make a little, like a little skull cup on the top of it, or a bowl. I don't know if it's supposed to be a skull cup, but it's kind of shaped like that, kind of like a skull, like a kapala. And then you put, I haven't found that I bought a whole bunch of pre-made candle wicks once, and I didn't find that they don't soak up the butter well enough, because these needs to burn fast. So that you can twist, if you're twist some cotton into a wisp, and sometimes people put it around a little stick, breaking a skewer or matchstick, not without the match end on it, and wrapping it around that to make it more substantial. And they stick it in. This is a little small, but for an empowerment, you probably be making a gektor a little bigger. And then the ting, that was a traditional way of doing it. A tinglo would have this and a wick in it, and butter filling this little basin. Isn't that cute? And it would go tucked in. Let me see if I got it right. I believe, yes, it's tucked into the left of the front. I'll show you. I won't forget, the camera's in a weird location. You know, you make your torma knowing you're going to be doing this, so it's shaped differently. And then your tinglo would be like that. But reality, a birthday candle works so well. It's so reliable that many lamas, most lamas are going to want a birthday candle. Easy peasy. And when I did one for Rinpoche, I made a tinglo and I stuck it in the tinglo base, using it as a base. And he didn't complain for Lama Pema Dudjom Rinpoche. He has to have something to stick into, so you might as well make the tinglo base and stick it. So you see here's the tepkyu on the front, there's the right side, and then there's it's wrapped inside the kind of dragon arm around here. And I didn't make mine proportionally longer to accommodate this, so it doesn't look quite perfect. And then it's tucked in there. And so it's in front, right next to your tepkyu. And Lama will be happy, but you have to, for preparing for a Wang, you have to ask. Sit down with the Lama, they have to look at the text, they won't remember. How many Gektors, how many Kartors, and everything else. Okay.
Does it matter what color the candle is, or?
Never heard any complaints, but I would try to find red and white and like that. I think it would be really weird to have it. I mean, depends on the Lama how fussy they are, but I think it would be weird to have a completely random color like green in there. Usually they're striped, and it's easy to find white ones or red and white ones. Keep them around if you're going to be doing this kind of stuff, hosting lamas. It's one of the items that you need to keep around the house with some mendrup and jutsi. Skewers that really help with everything, wooden skewers, and always have some dried beef on hand in case nobody shows up with meat to your soaks. All the accoutrement, all the paper things. I'm thinking about my cubbyhole. And lots of saffron on hand, lots of, go and get a gallon jug of red food coloring, and then smaller things of the yellow and black or blue. And lamas, if you have hosting a lama and they hasn't any time to prepare or whatever, even if you make the torma dough nicely, it'll be such a relief to them, if they have monks or assistants, to have that dough already made. And like when we did something up on the mountain, Pema Dudjom had his, he basically made his style chippins his style tormas very fast with his chippin mark. And I brought up like squeezy bottles with already diluted, it was in the mountaintop to do chip, squeezy bottles with already diluted red food coloring, a little yellow in there, water, and so it could just be, easily managed on the spot. All that kind of prep that you can do, you become really super valuable to your lamas, especially when they're winging it out in the community, just doing things very simply. They'll be so happy that you've tried. Even if you fail, I'll be happy you've tried. Gretchen, does that meet your needs, dear?